Now this time we're going to look at locating and citing scholarly or peer-reviewed sources. So let me begin by explaining some terms. In Moodle, there's a link to this web page from the University of California at Berkeley's library. It does a good job of distinguishing between scholarly and popular sources and explaining the characteristics of both. So as we've discussed before, popular sources are sources written for a general population. These are written by journalists or staff writers or reporters who are used to writing about lots and lots of different topics. They're not necessarily a specialist at any one thing, except writing those kinds of articles. These are the magazines, newspapers, web pages for news outlets that you've used in your papers up to now. Peer-reviewed source is somewhat different. So a peer-reviewed journal or article is one in which a group of widely acknowledged experts in a field reviews the content of for scholarly soundness and academic value. So beyond just editing, this is a team of people, experts in the field, who review and add an extra level of vetting for an article that appears. So if you are writing an article for a scholarly journal like the Journal of Asian History or the New England Journal of Medicine, this is a process of often years from conception to publication. If it is a scientific research project, then the research has to be done, data compiled, data retested, and this peer group that reviews the article may actually send it back for additional research or additional replication of the studies or more data. So it could be 2 or 3 years before it works its way into one of these publications. Some of the other characteristics of the scholarly works is that they're usually very much this academic format of abstracts and literature reviews, citations, bibliographies, footnotes that you don't normally see in a newspaper article or a magazine article. Now, I don't necessarily expect you to use these peer-reviewed sources in your papers in this class, in English 111, but I do want you to be aware of what is meant in college classes when the term scholarly or peer-reviewed sources comes up. You may be asked to locate a peer-reviewed article in your Psych 150 class, for instance, and read and summarize it. Certainly in English 112, we explore these kinds of sources in more detail, and you'll have occasions where writing, especially in a field of study that you plan to pursue, if you transfer to a four-year school, you would be using those kinds of articles in English 112. But again, I'm just trying to show you a range of kinds of sources out there and how to find them using the library resources. So that's what we'll take a look at now. Now at the library site, we'll do the same thing we did when we were looking for books and ebooks. We'll go down to the Visit the Library Now page, and we'll use that same Search Everything function. Now you can use the A to Z databases here to find specialized databases, or the ProQuest database that a lot of these articles we'll find today are located in. You can go directly to those, but you can also initiate your search here using the Search Everything. And I think that's what we'll do today. Let's take the topic of fracking and earthquakes. Okay, we'll say that's the topic that we're researching, and we'll insert it here. And we'll go through the same process to restrict the search. Beginning with 14,000, we're going to limit this to RCC items only. And then we're going to use this tab, the scholarly and peer review. All right, so that's definitely going to narrow it down to the kinds of works that we're looking for. And to narrow it a little bit more, we're just going to limit this to journal articles. So that 14,000 is down to a more manageable 356 now. Once we take the publication date and move it forward, they certainly weren't talking about fracking in 1922, so we want to move the publication date up to something more recent. We'll say 2014, and there we go. So now we have 294 articles to look at and the recent scholarship in this field. Now there's a couple of articles I wanted to pull up as examples to show you what you'll encounter when you open one of these. So here's an article on hydraulic fracturing for natural gas, impact on health and environment. All right, so we'll begin with this one. When I open it up, here's a good example of how you need to log into the website if you're off campus. It's the same login you use for Moodle and your email. And here's the article itself. Now you do get in this case, it looks like it's a sort of PDF version of it. It has the original page numbers, I think. Yeah. So, and other illustrations. It has an abstract. The abstract is very important in these kinds of articles because it's basically an overview of the entire article, purpose, the methodology, the findings. So often that abstract really simplifies the process of doing research because you can tell in just a few minutes whether it's an article that will help you without having to read through the whole thing. So let's say this article certainly meets muster, it's on topic, and we want to add it to our working bibliography. So what we'll do next is hit the Cite button here. Now, as we saw with the ebooks, many of these databases have automatic citation options. Now, this is the most important thing about using especially this source ProQuest, this database ProQuest. The default citation style is APA 6th. Now, we don't use APA 6th edition in English 111. We'll teach you this in English 112, but right now, for your working bibliography assignment, you're going to want to change that to MLA 8. Now, you only have to do it the first time. For each time, if I find 5, 6, 7 more articles, I won't have to change it to MLA 8th edition, but it's always worth double checking. So I can copy this citation, open my Word document, and again, I'll go ahead and paste it in. And like before, I'm going to need to change this to Times New Roman, 12-point font. Make sure that I go use the paragraph function to double space and use the special setting to create the hanging indent. All right. Now, within here, here's the author done correctly. Hydraulic fracturing for natural gas, impact on health and environment. All the prepositions and the conjunctions are lowercase, the other words are capitalized. Here's the journal, reviews on environmental health, the volume and the number, very common. This is very standard for academic journals. The year and the pages it appears. All right, so that all straight checks out. I don't have to change that at all. The ProQuest part is the database, so you want to include that. And then the only other thing I would need is this DOI number. So if you have the DOI number, that's the I think digital object identifier, you can delete all of this stuff. And in fact, you can delete everything between the colon after DOI and the number 10. It will always be a 10 there. And that's the number that I would just copy and paste that number into ProQuest, and it'll take you directly to that article. It's the number reserved. It's kind of code number reserved for this particular article. All right. So that's one. Let's go find another one, another article. Let's see. So I want to go here, and I want to show you another characteristic of ProQuest. It's another maybe a little fluke within it that it's something you'll have to look for and often correct. There's an article down here, this one. Now here's a case where in the original the title is produced in all caps, and the computer program that creates the citation picks up that capitalization and doesn't correct it. So here's a case where you're going to need to be a little smarter than the computer. You'll see what happens when I click the Cite button. Again, I'll copy this and go ahead and paste it in and show you what we'll do next. All right, so I'm going to take the article and quickly change it to Times New Roman and double space. I'm sorry, 12-point font. Turns out to be double spaced. All right. In this particular case, you'll see that the title comes out in all caps. So if you have an item on your Works Cited page that's in all caps, you have to change that. That's not going to be right in MLA style. We know that we want fracking, blasting, bedrock, business capitalized, and we want the and of not. Quickest way to do this without going in and retyping the whole title is to use that change case key again up here. Just change it to capitalize each word. Then I'll go in and change the to the and of to little of, and voila, that's fixed. Journal of Competitive Studies. Competitiveness Studies is the academic journal. There's the volume, the number, the year, the page. That's all standard stuff. Your academic journals are very consistent on this. ProQuest is the database. I don't have a DOI number, so I'll just use this URL for the identification there. And at that point, you're done. Now, I think in the original assignments and in the sample bibliography, I did show to add the access date. So we could do something like, and if you access it on a different date, oops, I just hit the hyperlinked it. All right, then a period after that. Get my Times New Roman back up here, and my 12-point font. All right, so that's how you locate these scholarly sources and also how you introduce them into your working bibliography. All right, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or have run into any trouble using any of these databases.